Well, I'm delighted to say our one-to-one is with former Dundee manager James McPake. James, great to have you with us. Are you at that point, having left Dundee, where you're absolutely itching to get back in?
Yes and no. Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me back in. Every time I come in, it's been great, and I've been doing the shows with you and Ruffy for years, and it's always an honour to get back in. Am I wanting back into football? Yes. I've got a 2-year-old, a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I'm now doing daddy daycare while my wife's out working. So for that reason alone, I'm wanting back in. But to be honest, I'm enjoying the time away. It was hectic. We were in there for almost 3 years. I fully believe we've done a good job getting the club back to the Premiership, and I'm now enjoying the time with the family and the time being away for the pressures of football. But there's no doubt about it, I want back in.
It's one of those situations where a lot of people won't realise that you're suddenly the manager of Dundee at a time in COVID when, never mind the pressures of being a manager, but suddenly the pressures of a pandemic and the restrictions that brought along as well. You're juggling something that not many managers have down through the years.
Yeah, and it's always one I went back to, and you relate it to the job you're in. Now, you can't possibly put football in the same situation as the incredible work that the people of the NHS, that they were saving lives. Now, people were losing their lives due to COVID, so when you weigh that up with football, it was nothing really, but it was our job at the time, and that's why I can say when you relate to it, we were working in football throughout COVID, and it was testing. It was, Friday night, you didn't know who was playing. We had a game this season going up to Aberdeen, and we got the test in the morning. Now, going back to the start, as soon as that happened, the game was off, no doubt about it. The SPFL made us play that day. Dave Mackay, at 40, was a sub for me that day. And I come out, and I think I was strong in my opinion, but I stand by my opinion of that day, that they made a mockery of Scottish football that day by allowing that game to go ahead. And when you've got the Aberdeen board agreeing with your interview, you know that. Now, that was one of the challenges, but look, every manager faces challenges, whether it's injury, falling out with players, but the COVID one was one in particular that I think everyone has struggled with.
Yeah. What was your overriding emotion as you realise now you're out of Dundee?
At the start, I was gutted. I spent 8 years at that club as a player. Paul Hartley signed me as a player. Got the injury. The club looked after the injury fantastically well. Never got back quite from the injury. I got into the coaching setup. They were good enough to do that. And then I got the manager's job. I believe I was maybe only 36 or 35 when I got the manager's job. But what's my overriding emotion? Pride. We got the club promoted when not many people gave us a chance. We were in a championship that had, and this isn't excuses, but this is facts, we were in a championship that had Dundee United, who at that point were throwing a lot of money at the club, and they've come up and they've done great. Hearts then come down, COVID circumstances with that. We missed the chance of the playoffs that season, which I think we had a right good chance because we were hitting form at the right time of the season. Hearts were then in a league with the massive budget that they had. Again, budgets don't win you leagues, but when you're a club the size of Hearts and the budget they had, they were always going to win that league. And then to get up through the playoffs, so that not many teams do. Kilmarnock, 28 years in the Premiership. Tommy had come in, kind of steadied the ship. Everybody thought, nobody gave us a chance getting promoted. We go through the playoff semi-final against Rafe, pretty comfortably in my opinion. And then the Kilmarnock game, over the two legs, without being disrespectful, we absolutely battered them. The players battered them. We got the tactics spot on as a group. That wasn't down to me or Dave, but what we had done and what we had studied and looked at. And on those two games, we showed that we could come up and compete in the Premiership. So the pride of getting the club back, because I seen how much it hurt when we went down, and the pride of getting the club back to the Premiership, getting Championship Manager of the season when Robbie had ran away with the league. So obviously people out there were looking at it and they agreed that Dundee shouldn't have got back, but we managed to do it, and sincerely hope that they can get themselves out of the position they're in at the minute and avoid going down, whether that's through a playoff or going and catching someone else this season.
It's a $64,000 question. Do you think you could have saved them from the drop?
Absolutely. And I said that at the time. Now, it's people say you would have had no chance. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. We had a great group of staff. I must say that at the club. We had a very good group of players. And we were very unlucky with injury. It's great to see Lee Ashcroft back. Shaun Burns now back and fit. Jordan Marshall's come back into the team. And those were key players for us. We got Zach Rudden in, who I believe would have helped us. He's a fantastic player, and he's a player I tried to sign when I first got the job. So let's not forget, there's 3 teams that beat Hearts, who are third and comfortably third in the league at Tynecastle, Celtic, Rangers and ourselves. And in the other game at Tynecastle, we drew that game as well. So look, we were hitting a wee bit of form, and we were getting players back. So that's my reasoning for believing that we could save them. Now, whether it was for a playoff, whether we could have caught Ross County, I'm not sure, but I do believe that we could have kept them in the Premiership. And probably the biggest thing with that is that we were getting key players back at a key point of the season.
Did you feel throughout the season, obviously you're going to be in that battle, over the last few months, but was there something earlier on that halted you, it really tested you as a manager as you were trying to get results?
A few things. The one that everyone will go back to will be the horrible night at Dens when Ross County beat us 5-0. And that's probably as bad a night in football as I've had. And I've had some sore defeats as a player, as a manager, and that night was sore. But what that group of players showed was real resilience. They went to a very good St Mirren team on the Saturday. Goody had St Mirren going well at the time, and we went 1-1-0. And that was a quick turnaround. Wednesday night to the Saturday, 8 of that 11, I believe, started that game. That started from the Wednesday night, and we went in and we beat St Mirren, and that showed that when the chips were down, when we needed results, we'd get results, and that's why I was confident, because it happened in the Championship. Now, the gulf between the Championship, most of the Championship teams and the Premiership teams is huge. We know that, but there were real belief in the group. I know of the staff and of the players that we could have got out of whatever mess we found ourselves in. We were in the quarter-final of 2 cups. St Johnstone put us out of the League Cup. They've got a tie against Rangers in the quarter-final of the Scottish Cup coming up, which is a massive tie for the football club financially also. So there was testing nights. There's always going to be testing nights. Ask any manager in any of the divisions, or any divisions in the world, do you have testing nights? Whether that's Pep Guardiola or Dick Campbell at Arbroath, do you have testing nights? And of course, or days, they'll tell you, yeah, you do.
If that was your lowest point as a manager, was there a point where you thought, oof, I've lost 5-0, I could be sacked?
Yeah, and that's why when we go back in my first, probably the first thought when I got told I was losing my job was of shock. We'd just won 2 games, we'd got, the Peterhead performance was nowhere near as good, or nowhere near good enough. But let's put it into perspective. We're Dundee, the BBC cameras are there. They were at Arbroath on the Sunday for Arbroath v Hibs. Now, why are they there? They're looking for a shock. That's what happens when it comes to the Scottish Cup. Now, I've got to do Scottish Cup finals with Hibs. Yeah, we had to play lower opposition. The cameras were always there. They're always there looking for the shock. We went up there, we done Peterhead were great, all credit to them. Simon Ferry had them doing great, and it was actually good fun working on the side with him and listening to him. I've got a lot of time for Simon, and he's a very good coach. Jim McInally's done a decent enough job up there as well, but we got a professional performance. We done what we had to do to get into the draw for the next round. Only second time in 10 years, I believe, that they've been in the quarter-final of the Cup, which is nowhere near good enough. Funnily enough, the last time they got in it under Paul Hartley, they drew Rangers in the quarters as well and lost 4-0. I hope that's not the case this time around. Yeah. But yeah, so if that decision had came after the Ross County game, then I probably could have taken it a bit better, if I'm honest, and I could have accepted it a bit better.
What lessons do you think you've learned as a young manager that you maybe hadn't grasped when you thought, whoa, that's made me a little bit wiser?
Loads. And probably too many to go into, because there is loads, and I had a great conversation with Derek McInnes, and I hope Derek doesn't mind me saying it, and he called me up, and a lot of managers have done that, and that I was very humbled by that, the amount of managers that have picked the phone up, players that have picked the phone up. And Derek said that when Derek lost his job at Bristol City, Walter phoned him, God bless him, and told him, go and write everything down that you think you've done well, write everything down that you felt you didn't do so well, and you've got to be honest with yourself. So I've took that on board with Derek, and I think it's a great piece of advice, because there's been a few things that I've already noted just in a wee book. Nobody else will see it apart from myself, unless Don or Dave's in the house or something and they try and have a look at it, just to see if I'm being honest, but I will be. And there's a couple of things already that I'm looking at and going, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. One that pops out that I'll be honest about, and now everybody will blame me for the result, but we were playing Ross County not too long ago. We dominated the first half. Zach Rudden scores a good first goal for the club. Max Anderson has a chance to make it 2-0. The board goes up with a minute to go. Ross County equalise with 30 seconds. I go in and go a bit over the top, to say the least. Now, we were excellent in the first half. We come out, we look shell shocked.
Yeah.
That's you. You're putting me under pressure. We looked like not the same team that we were in the first half. Now, looking back, I believe I went in and went a bit too heavy. What I could have done, just go in, and I'm being completely honest, and this is in the wee book that I've wrote, but I think it's a good one to come out when you've asked the question. And as you know me, I always want to be honest, but I probably could have went in and just said, you know what, well done, go out, perform the same in the second half. Would we have won the game? I don't know. Hindsight's a great thing, but I believe I went in that day and went a bit too much on them, and they came out, we weren't the same team, and it's little things like that that'll take into my next job, if I'm lucky enough to get a next job, and I'll be better for it.
I'm going to talk to you about that, but do you find possibly that when you lose a job like that, I always feel, I can talk about it from a personal point of view as well, you have, I always remember one of my pals in the game said to me, you meet acquaintances in this game, but once you have adversity, once you have a difficult moment in your life, you realise who your true pals are.
Yeah, absolutely. Without going into too much.
Yeah.
And Paul Hartley's a great one for that as well, because Paul phoned me, and Paul told me, because I always used to had a close relationship with Paul when he was a manager, and because I was an injured player, and Paul helped me massively because he got me involved in the coaching. And that's what he said. He says, your phone will go, everybody will text you, everybody will phone you and say, gutted to hear you lose your job, all that goes with it, and then within 2 weeks, bang. You'll know hear from MD, apart from the ones that you really trust, or the ones that are there for you. And yeah, that's happened.
Yeah, thank God I phoned you. More to the point, you're going to look for a job. What do you think they're getting now? You mentioned there the lessons you've learned. Do you think the next chairman who employs you is getting, I think, a manager with a good CV? That's the first thing. But secondary to that learning curve you went through of man management, it's a skill. It's a skill to know when to cajole a player, when to cuddle them, when to slaughter them. Those learning curves, I think. Do you not think the next time you're going into a manager, he's getting a more mature James McPake, but still somebody that knows how to get a team to win?
I'll be honest. I think I believe one of my biggest strengths was, as a player, was man management as well, because captain of Hibernian, captain of Coventry at times. At 23-year-old, I was captain of Livingston. So I knew when to use Lee Griffiths, for example. I knew when to have a go at Lee, or you knew when to just say, forget it, because you get different reactions out of him, and you build that. Paul McGowan's another one. Paul plays on the edge all the time, so at times you just have to calm him down. So I believe that's one of my strengths anyway. It's different when you get into management, and I found that, and I thought it would just be the same, but you get into management. And another one, we had one down at Morton where Cammy Kerr gives a free kick. Cammy was excellent for me, so I'm not digging him out here, but gives a free kick away a minute before half time, Morton scored again 1-0. Now I go in and have a go at Cammy. He didn't need it. I should have went in and just says, right, come on. So those wee things, did I pick them up quick enough? I believe I did, because I was learning on the job at the time. I'm still only 37. There's managers been in the game for 30, 40 years that are probably still making these mistakes. But what's a club going to get if they get me in? Well, they've got a manager that, in my opinion, that is desperate to succeed, still desperate to learn, and as you said it, not me, but can find a way winning games. And there's the promotions there as well, which I'm very proud of. And I think it's something when I come in here and sat with you after I got manager of the season that I gave my mum the trophy, because she was just so proud of that, and it still sits. Because I went up the other day and I'm thinking, I've lost my job, she's not going to want that there, but it's still sitting there proudly for her. So to be in the game for that long, so young, and throw all the stats out, I'm not talking myself up, I'm giving facts, but the longest serving manager at the time in the Premiership until I lost my job, silly things like that, and I've went through a lot as a manager, with the COVID, as you brought it up, and having to deal, and never shirked away from challenges for senior players. Like, did it worry me bringing Charlie Adam in? The career he's had? Absolutely not. Graham Dorrans? Absolutely not. Did it worry me having a go at Paul McGowan, who I'd played for? No. Like, my job was to get a team on the pitch to win, and I believe when the chips were down, we got the team on the pitch to win. That was shown with the promotion, and I still believe we would have done that if we could have got the club promoted, if we could have got the time to keep the club in the division this season.
Yeah. So do you get that sense that you might have to wait till the summer?
Well, I've had 2 phone calls, but I need the time. I'm going to take the time away. Well, 2 phone calls about jobs. I've had about, obviously you get more phone calls than 2, because you've phoned me more than twice, but I've had 2 phone calls for people regarding jobs, and I just said, look, I need a break, and I genuinely do need a break. I need to spend some time. See, I've got a 2-year-old that I've not spent enough time, and I feel a bit guilty about that. I've got an ongoing knee problem that is going to get sorted. It should have been sorted, but I got COVID. So that's going to get sorted in April, that I'm going to take the time to do that. If a job popped up before that, would I be interested? No. I'll be genuine on that. I want to take the time. I want to take Derek's advice and the advice I've had I spoke to Chris Coleman about this as well. I need the time out to reflect and do it, because it was non-stop, and it wasn't fair on my family either. I don't think, with the travelling and me staying up there 4 nights a week. So I want to come back refreshed and with slightly different ideas, with a different approach, but with a lot of the things that I believe in as well, that got us success at Dundee.
Would you move down south?
Absolutely. Probably the best time in my career was when I played at Coventry. We loved our time down there. We had a really good team, really good manager in Chris Coleman, a couple not so good, but we'll not go into that. That's the way football works. People will say I was hopeless, so but
they say that about everybody.
Exactly.
You know, we all get it in the neck. You can't have everybody liking you.
No,
you know?
So I learned so much from Chris, and I still speak to him regularly, and he's been fantastic for me. But yeah, no, I'd love to work in England again. I love playing down there, and I love the intensity of the football. I don't mean how fast or the games, but you're playing Saturday, you're away. It was great for football, and that's what I want to be about again when I've had this wee break.
Okay, it's not so much I think it's good that you mentioned the fact that you're positive about so many things that you're good at, because I think you've got to have that air of confidence to be a manager. You've mentioned your qualities as a captain, so we know that there's managers and chairmen. There's going to be chairmen out there, certainly, and owners, and hopefully you'll get a job in the summer. Just on reflection of the players that you worked with, is there one that sticks out? You thought, top bloke, really enjoyed working with him.
As a manager?
Yeah.
Everybody will say I'm saying this because he's my friend, an ex-player, but Paul McGowan, every day in training, set the tone. Now I'm not saying he was the best player, that's not taking any away from Paul, but like when you've worked with players like Charlie Adam, Graham Dorrans, bringing people like that in. But Paul McGowan sets a standard of training every single day. He's almost fit every single day. He demands, and if things aren't going right in training, he'll pull people up. He's a throwback, and football has changed. For when I played, where you made a mistake when I played, and you had a Stuart Lovell, a Lee Mako, or whoever it was at Livingston at the time, they let you know, and they didn't let you away with it. Paul's a bit like that, and Paul will never change, and you didn't really need to, as a coach or a manager, at times you would calm him down, because particularly, but the one thing with him, he had the balance, because he was great with the younger boys, but if it was a senior player that wasn't pulling their weight, then he was the first to do that. Not just in training, you see him on the pitch, you see him, I heard him at half time, and you hear him after the game. He's a born winner, and that's why he's still at 36 or 37. And you look at it now, managers leave him out, he always finds a way to get back in. Why? Because they see, now everybody will come in and they'll go, he's finished, his legs have gone. No, he was never fast. And for me, Paul's, we put it that way, worked with in terms of what he brought to me as a manager, by a mile him.
And if you're in that dugout, you're saying to yourself, okay, regardless of who the opposition is there one player that you used to constantly say to your team, don't take your eye off him, this guy will cause us havoc?
This season twice, and I think you know the one I'm going to say, Kyogo. Wow. Like, and I know Big Lee Ashcroft still wakes up having nightmares. And he'll not mind me saying that because he tells me that. I think we didn't know enough. It was maybe the third game of the season. I believe it might have been his debut at Celtic Park that day. And we're thinking, we went, we got the footage up, and we're saying, we've a wee chance in here. Wow, his movement, the way he presses, the way he gets after teams. And then he came to Dens as well, and he done the exact same. So the twice we played them, with me as a manager, Kyogo's been in the team. Dundee then go into Celtic Park and he's out injured. I think somebody throw me son here.
The gods are against you.
Leave him out. So he was one. Another one I think I must give a mention to, he's a player that, from what he's done coming back from injury, and he's went and got his move to Rangers now, not yet, but signed the pre-contract as John Souttar. He's a player I stand and watch, and I turned around to Dave and just says, like, he's a Rolls Royce. Like, even though he's not in our team, and we were battling with Hearts, and we've had a few battles on the touchline with Hearts, but watching John Souttar and the way he plays, and the passes he hits, and now the way he's went on to be a defender, which I think is fantastic. I played against him when he was a younger kid, and he played in midfield at times, and I spoke to Jackie about this as well. But watching him now, delighted for him when he scored the goal for Scotland, because he's had horrific injuries, and what standing on the touchline watching him, he's one I went, it's great standing watching him. It's just a pity he's not on my team. Yeah. But those are the two. Like, Rangers have got some fantastic players as well. Every club you could go around and say that there are players. And another one I love watching just because I've worked with him and the way he plays the game is Glenn Kamara. Yeah. He's so calm, he's so composed, and I like watching Glenn when he's on the ball and what he does off the ball as well. Do
you think Souttar is a great signing for Rangers?
Absolutely. And I thought Celtic would have took a chance as well with the way they play. But he's decided to go to Rangers, or maybe the Celtic thing never came, I don't know, I'm no privy to that information, but I'm just delighted he's got, not because of anything against Hearts, but I think he deserves to play at a top club, whether that's in Scotland or England, and Hearts obviously are a massive club, but when you weigh them up compared to a Celtic or a Rangers, then I think John Souttar's deserved this chance, and just particularly with injuries, and I can talk about that because I've had injuries, but the way he's come back for them, the mental strength he's shown to come, and that's not easy, to come back, and now he's playing the football, in my opinion, of his career, the best football of his career, and I hope he goes and does well.
Before we finish, you're probably best placed as a manager in a dugout to assess the way this whole season's going to end. Who's the best side you've faced then? And do you think that side is the team that's either going to win the championship in the Scottish Premiership, or is it just a team that you played in that season that just clicked every time you come up against them?
Celtic. We'll start on Rangers first. Under Steven Gerrard, when they came to Dens, and we were unlucky that day. Jason Cummins misses a penalty. Rangers won the game 1-0. And not just on that, but I think when you look back on that game, we could have got all 3 points. We then went in, I think it was Van Bronckhorst's first home game, and they absolutely battered us. He changed it, he tweaked it a little bit, and they were very good that day. But the times we played Celtic, it speaks for itself. 6-0 in at Celtic Park, and then 4-2 I believe the game was at Dens. But just the intensity that they played at, and I done the game yesterday, or I done the game on Sunday for Sky, and watching them, that was more, because they have hit a little dip in my opinion, or they had hit a little dip in my opinion, but that was more of the Celtic that I had seen playing against my Dundee team, with the way that they were pressing. Obviously getting James Forrest back in and playing well is going to help. Kyogo, if he does come back, and how quickly he comes back, will be a big one. They've got the 3 point gap. A lot will come down to the Old Firm game, we know that, or the game when both teams play each other, but I still believe something will turn. It's back to what it used to be like when the atmosphere at Almonville or the Tony Macaroni Arena was fantastic. And I believe when we went into Rangers as well, it was fantastic. So it's back to going when both of them had good teams. We were all watching up, and it was always going to the last day. It was goal difference, and I believe Scottish football's now back to that, and that's great for our game. But if I'm sitting here now, I'll say Celtic, because they do have the advantage. But again, it's all going to come down to this: the games the game they play each other, and who can get that right on the day. And then injuries are going to play a part as well. So I'm not sitting on the fence. You've asked me who I think will win, having watched both teams and played against both teams. And if it's purely on, if both teams get it right and play their best, I believe Celtic, just with the way they play. But I think what's key to that is they get Kyogo back, they avoid injuries, and also Rangers stay. If they can keep their players fit, then it could go either way. So I don't know how I've answered that, who I've said's going to win it, but at the minute, sitting here, having watched them on Sunday, and having been on the back of a few real heavy ones from them, then for me, I think Celtic will take it.
And at the bottom end, it could be St Johnstone, it could be your old team Dundee. It's nip and tuck, it's so tight at the bottom. But in the Championship, you've got Arbroath, you've got Kilmarnock in there, and people are swaying one way or the other on this. Who do you think wins the Championship? Who do you think goes into the playoff, and are they good enough, the playoff teams that are in there, to take the second bottom team in the Premiership?
Well, we proved last year that we were more than good enough. So I think the answer to that is yes. And I think with Derek and Tony Dock getting in, Paul Sheehan getting into Kilmarnock, that's what will win Kilmarnock the league, in my opinion. No disrespect to who was in before, but Derek's a known winner. He's won that league before. He's won a cup. He's got to numerous cup finals. He got Aberdeen into Europe 8 seasons in a row, I believe. So I think Kilmarnock, and the players have signed, and the squad they've got, I think they will win that league. And I think Arbroath will get to the playoff final, and I'd love that to happen, because of Dick Campbell. He's been fantastic with me. He's fantastic with Dave. He took Dave as a player to Brecon, I believe, about 20 odd or 25 years ago. With Dave's age, and that's me doing him a favour, by the way. So Dick was great with us, and always gave us the time of day and pointers what to do and whatnot. And looking at the season he's had is unbelievable. But I wasn't surprised. I called this a couple of years ago, because he kept saying, all we want to do is stay up, and he plays that very well. And no, he wants to get out of the league. There's no doubt about it. They've built a team that's come all the way up, that know each other, they know their jobs. We never beat them at Arbroath. We beat them at the games at Dens, but we couldn't find a way to win up there. I believe they beat Hearts up there, or Dundee United, one of the two of them. So whoever, if it's St Johnstone or Dundee, they will not want Arbroath in a playoff final. And sitting as the ex-Dundee manager until 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have fancied Arbroath in that final. I'd have been, if we made the playoffs, I'd have been hoping somebody else would have beat Arbroath in the semi-final, just so it wasn't them, because I believe they are the better team out of the rest of them, and having the Dick Campbell effect, and that effect that they've won enough over the last couple of years that they're used to winning, whether it's promotions, leagues, playoffs, whatever it may be, and in the way Dick can get a team motivated, then all the best to whoever plays him in that playoff final.
I'm delighted to say James McPake is with us. James, you are best placed to assess all the teams in the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup. It's going to be a fantastic weekend, and it all kicks off with Hearts against St Mirren. If I'm going to pin you down to who wins it and why?
Hearts win that game for me. Full house at Tynecastle. The Scottish Cup is massive to both Edinburgh clubs. Having played, and there's certainly one I don't want to talk about, but having played for Hibs and seeing how much that cup means to them and Hearts, I think Hearts will win that game on the back of a fantastic atmosphere, and I just believe that at the minute they're a better team than St Mirren. Now, that could change with a new manager getting in, and if Goody was there, would I be saying different? I don't know. I know they have beaten them this season, but no, for me, Hearts will win that game.
The next game I'm going to ask you about is possibly the toughest to call, because everybody always can opt for Rangers or Celtic to win theirs, but Motherwell against Hibs, you've got a Graham Alexander in there trying to put his real strong print on that side, and then you've got Shaun Maloney who's transforming the mindset at Hibernian. It's at Fir Park. Which way's your money going?
Well, my heart's going to rule my head again, and I'm going to go Hibs for that. They'll have a massive away crowd. As I say, I played in some fantastic cup ties for Hibs. One in particular at Kilmarnock in the quarter final, where it's the only time my wife's ever said she's been scared at a football game. The away stand was bouncing. Lee Griffiths scored a hat-trick that day, and I think we won the game 4-2 or whatever it may have been, but that away end will be full, because again it's the Scottish Cup. But fair play to Graham Alexander for what he's done, and in the way he's got that team playing. They're very dynamic, they're big, they're strong. What I will say is we managed to put them out of the League Cup. We turned them over 3-0 at Dens. We never managed to do that to Hibs, so I'll say Hibs will win that one. Just on that, Shaun's come in, and I'll say that, I think we've got to give him time, and I hope he does get the time, because I like what he's trying to do, and we can be too, as fans as well, we can judge people too quickly. He's a young manager, it's his first job, give him the time, give him to the summer to bring in his own people. Fans want instant success. I thought Jack done a great job in at Hibs, I must say that as well. But give him the time. If you're going to invest in a young manager, bring him in, give him the time to do it. And the pitch at Fir Park's good, so it will suit the way Hibs are going to go and play, and he'll not change. That's what he's going to do. The big thing will depend if Paul Hartley's fit. I think he's a massive loss to the team. If they get him fit, Nisbet being out obviously is a blow as well, but no, I'm going for Hibs in that.
Okay, so we've got the two.
I'm probably going to be wrong with the two of them. But
well, listen, I mean, this is the great thing about us getting an opinion out of you. What about Dundee against Rangers? You know the Dundee team inside out, and they're against a Rangers side desperately looking at it and thinking, okay, there's a double up for grabs here.
Yeah, and this is one that a really interesting game. They come up, and I don't think it was under Steven Gerrard. They didn't enjoy it that day. As I alluded to earlier, we should have taken something from that game. There'll be a massive away support, and hopefully there's a big Dundee crowd there cheering the Dundee boys on. It's a massive game for them, and a lot will go down to. We've got to look into this as well. Dundee have a huge game on Wednesday night. It's their game in hand against St Mirren. It's a game they really need to, in my opinion, get something from, preferably all 3 points, because it will then. They'll go ahead of St Johnstone. It's a huge game, that one. How much does that take out? They obviously had their COVID issues, and that was well documented at the weekend. I've not spoke to anyone, so I don't know who's going to be back. But if Dundee can get the shape right and be resolute and hard to break down and stay in the game, then they've got players in that team like Charlie, like Paul McMullen, who that day he got the penalty that day that Jason sadly missed. But Dundee have got players in the team that can hurt MD, and it seems to be when the big games come around, that's when he comes to the fore. And I'm hoping for me, well, no, for me, I'm hoping for that group of players and for the football club, the fans in general, that they get a chance to go to Hampden.
Yep. Okay. So suddenly we find ourselves on Monday at Tannadice, Dundee United against Celtic.
They'll all be hammering me for saying that. No, look, to be fair, Celtic have struggled up there as well, and Rangers have struggled up there. So, what I will say, I know how good a coach Liam Fox is, and Liam does a lot of the work. Tam's done great since he's went in. You just need to look where they are in the league and what they've done, and it'll not be an easy game for Celtic. But I just think I keep going back to it, and people say all he's talking about is away support and this and that. But I think when it comes to the Scottish Cup, now you're talking about a double. There's a treble sitting here for Celtic. If they've won the League Cup. Ange wants to win every game he plays. He wants to win it, and that's the one thing I will say. If you're watching the game the other week against Rangers, he'll not be able to play that slick football that they can play at Celtic Park, or when they went to Livingston on Sunday there, that they can get the ball down and play. And if I was Dundee United's manager, I would be having the grass as long as I could to allow them, or to stop them from doing that. And if it wasn't raining, I'd have it as dry as I could as well to stop that. But no, I think Celtic will have enough to go up there and win that game. Liam's a really close friend of mine, but obviously I'm not going to sit here and say I want Dundee United to beat Celtic, because I want Dundee's my team up there. But I think Celtic will have enough, and looking at them and seeing the way they did play the other day, I think they're getting back to hitting that form where they're looking really good again, and they're peaking at the right time in my opinion. And you just had to look at Rangers and Dortmund, so you can't argue that they're not peaking at the right time either. So it's great for Scottish football. It's great for the Scottish Cup, because if you can look at it that way, if we could get both Edinburgh teams through, hopefully not both Glasgow teams, I'm hoping it's Dundee, but if it isn't and we get both Glasgow teams through, then it's great for Scottish football.
So with that in mind, you're going for the Jambos,
yep,
the Hibbies, Dundee.
Hopefully Dundee.
And Celtic.
Yes.
James, it's been an absolute joy speaking to you.
Thank you.